Hi, I'm Henry Holland and I am a ceramicist and I'm based in London. In my life, I work predominantly as a ceramicist. I also work as a creative director and a creative consultant for other brands. I started working in ceramics in 2021 when I moved away from the fashion industry and I started working in ceramics. I discovered the medium of ceramics and it felt very meditative and very personal. I really connected to the process of making pieces and I just really fell in love with it. And so I was really fortunate to be able to turn that into my new sort of vocation or my new business and my way of life. I was looking for a new creative outlet or a new creative output. I really missed the process of making things and creating things. And I started having some ceramics lessons, evening classes, to just to play and just to try something new. And I instantly fell in love with it and became addicted to the process and, the creative process of making things with my hands was just really therapeutic for me. I just started from there really, and I started doing a lot of online research and looking into different techniques and different ways of working with ceramics, doing lots of testing and trialing in my own kitchen. But yeah, the business was born from my kitchen table really. I was making pieces over the Christmas holidays, just all day and all night. The technique that we use is called nerokomi. It's a technique whereby you use coloured clays to create patterns and designs rather than painting on the patterns using glazes and paintbrushes. And I think, given my background in fashion, I was so used to creating graphic prints through weave textures or through digital print onto cloth. And so I was used to much stronger definition between colours than I was achieving with my experiments with glazes and in different initial trials that I was making. And so when I discovered this technique of nerokomi, it just really felt like a true reflection of my look and my aesthetic and something that really represented me. It felt bold and bright and playful, and also very tactile. Like I love to create things that you feel like you want to pick them up and you want to interact with the pieces and you want to touch them. And then similarly, I think also as a kind of feeding from my fashion background as well, is that I love to create things that people adopt into their everyday lives. So I was really drawn to the idea of making functional wear, tableware, so plates and bowls, and mugs and things that people will use as part of their everyday life. So, I love the idea that my customers, first coffee of the day is from one of our cups or their breakfast is eaten out of one of our bowls. I think that's such a privilege for people to welcome you into their lives in the same way that they would with a dress or a jacket that they covet and they really love and that they wear it again and again and it represents who they are. Similarly with the functionality of homeware, you're being welcomed into people's homes and into their personal environment. And that's a real privilege. And that's kind of one of the things that really drives my creative output, is creating things that people love, that people cherish, and that make their lives better, I hope. My favorite color within my work changes from day to day. I think, some days I'll really feel strongly for the green and white colorway patterns. Some days I feel really strongly for something really subtle like our tonal white on white. But I think overall, if I had to pick one, I think our brown and white colorway is probably the one that I feel most drawn to. I think it's kind of our version of black and white, sort of a monochromatic feel. It's very bold, it's very distinctive. But the fact that we use this sort of chocolate black / brown and an off-white, it softens it and it feels more elevated and it feels more calming than a really stark, like true black and white color. Even though I'm wearing black and white today. I'm a real cheeseball when it comes to music. I love pop music. When I first started, my first career post-university was working for pop music magazines. And I've never shaken off my ultimate fandom for girl bands, boy bands, pop music. And I feel no shame. I am very proud to be into pop music, although I don't often like to share that in public. I think people looking at your playlists is a bit like allowing someone to read your diary. It's a very personal process. So where I look for inspiration is lots of different places. Starting points are often from, references from my childhood, from growing up. My mum was a big collector of antiques, and she also had a real passion for the Art Deco era. So our initial mug shapes were kind of inspired by some of her old pieces that she'd collected and some pieces that she'd passed down to me. And also working with ceramics is working truly in 3D. Working in fashion is very 2D. So you're drawing dresses, that are 2D, your pattern cutting is 2D, and it's only once the fabrics are placed on a form, whether that's a form or a human being or a person, that they become 3D. So working with ceramics is much more a pure 3D process. And so I often like to work with the physical pieces, building them and stacking them and placing them on top of each other, rather than sketching to then transform it into something in 3D. I tend to more experiment in the room, like stacking mugs or bowls together to create new and interesting forms. And really it's just about creating something that feels like it really reflects the brand. The Henry Holland studio brand is something that I feel has a real strong sense of self. It's a true reflection of me and who I am and personality traits. And I think once you create something that feels right within that feeling, it's about a feeling, that you're onto a winner. The worst thing in my life. Wow. I think the worst thing in my life is that my mum is no longer with us. I think, so many of my memories and so much of my inspiration and so much of my creativity comes from her. And I think definitely the worst thing is not having her to share that with anymore, and having to kind of take that forward and live in a way that you would envisage she would want me to, without being able to speak to her or see her anymore. I think the most exciting moments and kind of happiest moments in my life are always ones that I share with my husband. I think, we work together with this company, and that's quite a new thing for both of us. We're both from a fashion background and we work together on this business, and it's such a special feeling to be creating something together, that's outside of just our personal life, just to be creating something and building something together. I think that brings me lots of joy and lots of excitement. Life for me, I think, is really doing something that makes me feel proud, working creatively on something that makes me feel fulfilled, having really great relationships with my friends and my family is always really important, and just trying to be in a place of contentment, I think, which isn't always easy for me. I'm always wanting to do more, wanting to push more, so I'm working on trying to find a place where I'm content and happy with where I am.